Hey friendos, how's it going? Ash here. Welcome back to Gents. Hope that you're doing well. Yes, the lights are off again. I'm thinking about redoing it, maybe putting some different lights back there or something, or just moving to a different filming location. But we'll figure it out as time goes. In today's video, I'm going to be talking to you guys about 10 different blue fragrances that work fantastically if you're trying to come across classy, gentlemanly, very modern men's fragrances here today. I'll have each one of these linked in the description below in case you do want to check them out. And in case for some reason you're unaware of what makes a blue fragrance blue, it's not the coloration of the bottle, although that definitely does seem to be the case a lot of times. Blue fragrance, blue bottle. And also it's not the coloration of the juice on the inside of the bottle. No, typically when people say blue fragrance, they mean something that is made mainly for mass appeal, for versatility, something made to get compliments, something that you would wear as like a daily driver kind of fragrance. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into it and let's start talking about these fragrances. Also, of course, want to remind you, once again, drill that into your brain that twistedlily.com and maxaroma.com, you can use the code GENTS10 to save yourself 10% off your order, or whatever you want to buy from those websites, save yourself a little money. So where to start? Let's start with something just extremely obvious. Dior's Sauvage. This is the eau de parfum. Now, of course, Dior Sauvage, one of, not the only, but one of the fragrances that really helped blow up the whole blue wave of men's fragrances that came along with that. And by saying with that, I mean with that huge increase in money that Dior was making because they were selling so many bottles. Not just Dior, other brands were making money on blue fragrances before this one, but we'll get to those in a second. So yeah, Sauvage Eau de Parfum, big time compliment puller. It's a little bit smoother than the Eau de Toilette. It's less aggressive with that metallic feel from the ambroxan that you do get in the Eau de Toilette and the Eau de Parfum that is dialed down. And you also have some additional sweetness from vanilla in here, which really helps set it off. I think on the whole, if you're just going for maximum versatility in the Sauvage line, the one that does that best is the Eau de Parfum. And of course, it still has great longevity and projection. Now, the next one is fully me being completely biased. Terra Nova, which is a fragrance that I creatively directed. So yeah, this is mine, basically. I told you, it's a completely biased pick. You gotta deal with it. Now, of course, I also creatively directed Blue Ridge, and that is more of like the typical blue fragrance style. And by that, I mean, it's named Blue Ridge. And then when you smell it, you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, it's fresh, it's sweet, it's made to grab attention. I get it. Terra Nova, though, it's a little bit classier than Blue Ridge. It's a little bit more grown up than Blue Ridge. It still has sweetness and it is still fresh, but it has a little bit more depth to it, especially as it dries down, a little bit more body to it. Still a really big compliment pulling fragrance. It has a nice kind of effervescent opening to it, almost like a bubbly bergamot, golden lotus in there as well. It has black amber, a sweet patchouli, it's got ambroxan. It's made for compliments, I mean, just like Blue Ridge, but it does it in a more, as I said, sophisticated way. And that one, if you do get a bottle ever, I use the code GENTS for 20% off, and that's good for the whole Michael Malone website. So any of the new fragrances I did, you would use that code, unless you just want to pay full retail, but I wouldn't do that. Up next, Gentleman Eau de Toilette Intense. Some people might not even consider this a blue fragrance because it's not done in that more typical style. This is an iris fragrance, and it's a fresher take on that, somewhat lipsticky style of designer fragrance that is based around iris. Very good versatility. It's another fragrance that is classy, sophisticated, a nice office choice, good for spring and fall. And if you wanted to stretch it, you can pull this off in summer or winter as well. Of the current Gentleman line, this one is the one that I would choose if somebody were saying, I want one of those, but I want to make sure I can get a lot of use out of it, and I still want that compliment factor. The scent that I want to talk to you about next is one that did not get a whole lot of hype when it came out. You can find it at discounters pretty easily. It was a little bit cheaper back maybe a year ago, but it's still affordable at discounters overall. It is Ferragamo's Uomo Urban Feel. The Uomo line from Ferragamo for a lot of people is basically just the original Uomo and then Uomo Signature, and that's about it. They don't really pay attention to the other releases, but Urban Feel is a solid scent. Of course, it has that wearability that you expect with a blue fragrance, but this one has kind of an ambery undertone, like a little warmth to it, a little sweetness that's done in a slightly different way as compared to the more popular blue fragrances out there. Even though the bottle, maybe to some people, would look a little bit immature compared to some of the classier looking bottles in this list here, the scent itself is still very well done, and as I said, flies under the radar, but still has that versatility. And one thing I like about that one a lot is when it opens up, it's very fresh and fruity, and it does have a good amount of sweetness, kind of an airiness to it, but as it dries down, that's when it starts to warm up. So you've got kind of a nice evolution there as the fragrance dries on your skin. Now let's go with an expensive one. If you got a lot of money to splash around, a lot of money to spend, you could go with this Rage au Parfum Elysium. This is the Parfum. Now the Parfum Cologne, probably the more popular choice with Elysium because it comes with a nicer bottle, just as far as an attention-grabbing bottle, and it is way more affordable. But between the two, if I could have just one, I'd go with the Parfum. I think it's smoother, richer, higher quality, just overall the better fragrance. So as I said, if you got a lot of money to spend, go for this. The opening here is great. It sparkles, jumps off your skin. It's got this effervescence to it, this like carbonated melange of aromatics and citrus that just immediately grabs your attention. Pricey, but worth it. Then we got a fragrance from somewhat of an old school blue fragrance line in the designer realm. It is Polo Blue Parfum from Ralph Lauren. Of course, the original Polo Blue Eau de Toilette, a big release, big fragrance, even though I think it is the worst in the entire Polo Blue lineup. But it started off a line that just keeps chugging. So, I mean, obviously it did something right. I think nowadays when I smell Polo Blue, it smells like, you know, kind of a run-of-the-mill sport gym scent. But I know at the time, you know, it hit different. So I don't want to hate on it too much. Polo Blue Parfum, though, much better. And this one kind of ramps up that classiness a step further over the other fragrances in the Polo Blue line. Maybe something like Polo Blue Gold Blend, you could say is pretty close to this one as far as that classiness aspect goes. But I think overall, if I were gonna pick one that I were wearing to like a formal occasion or someplace where I really wanted to come across, you know, like I had my stuff going on, then I would go for a Polo Blue Parfum if I'm choosing from the Polo Blue line. So this one has a very enticing orange off the top, great citrus. As it dries down, you get this woodiness that comes out, along with some aromatics with lavender. So it has this clean edge to it, but that woodiness really drives this one home. And I think it's just really well done. Another one that smells great from opening to dry down. This one actually surprised me a lot. I didn't expect to like it as much as I ended up liking it. So we talked about Sauvage earlier. You gotta talk about this one too. Bleu de Chanel. Once again, the Eau de Parfum. Same kind of deal where the Eau de Parfum, if you're going for one that's classy, is going to probably be the best bet for more people. Now, some people are gonna go with the Parfum version of Bleu de Chanel, and I do think the Parfum version of Bleu de Chanel is better to me than the Parfum version of Dior Sauvage. And if you said I'm gonna go Bleu de Chanel Parfum for my classy blue fragrance, I would say, yeah, that makes total sense. But the Eau de Parfum over the Eau de Toilette makes sense because it is, once again, as you would expect, a little bit smoother, a little bit deeper, a little more refined, a little bit less top note heavy, if you want to call it. Bleu de Chanel is one of those scents that it just works. Anything that you want to do, this will have you smelling awesome. And since we did Christian Dior and Chanel, we got to do YSL. For YSL though, I'm going with the EDT. Now for me, if we're talking classy fragrances, I think that Y Eau de Toilette is a little bit classier than the Eau de Parfum. The Eau de Parfum, make no mistake about it, great blue fragrance. You're looking for something that's gonna get you compliments, attention, that's gonna last a long time, all that stuff, you know, the typical things, the typical reasons that somebody would shop for a blue fragrance. Yeah, Y Eau de Parfum will do that for you, for sure. Can you wear Y Eau de Parfum in more classy situations? Yeah, absolutely. But I think Y Eau de Toilette fills a nice niche where during higher heat situations where maybe you wouldn't go for the EDP, you can go for this and it will work. I actually think that the reformulation of Y Eau de Toilette is better than the original formulation of Y Eau de Toilette. The reformulation of Y EDT actually made it a little bit better. Slightly less abrasive in the opening. Not that the original is really abrasive, but it has this kind of ozonic aldehydic vibe that some people don't jive with, but that was smoothed out with the reformulation. So once again, another fragrance that's good in pretty much any situation, casual, office, date, whatever, really good stuff. And if we're talking fragrances that are classy, gentlemanly, you have to have a Prada in there. So I'm gonna go with this one, Prada Luna Rossa Ocean. This is Prada's new blue fragrance. It's a very clean one, like you would expect from Prada, and this also has iris. Not as prominently as Gentleman Eau de Toilette that we talked about earlier, Gentleman Eau de Toilette Intense, excuse me, but it is still in there, and it's done in less of a makeup-y way than you're gonna find in the Gentleman. This is a fragrance that when I first smelled it, I did like it. I mean, it's one of those scents that's almost impossible to dislike, but I did like it, but I wasn't in love with it. Then I wore it out and about. I got to know it more. Sounds like I'm dating it. But as I did, I really came around to it. And at this point, I think that Luna Rossa Ocean, if you're going for just a jack of all trades fragrance, is one of the strongest on the market, one of the best. Last scent, and another pricey one. It's from Ormond Jane. It is Montalbano Verano. This is one of my favorite niche blue style fragrances. It is fresher, I would say, than Elysium in that it just basically is going for full-on freshness right from the outset. Elysium has nice depth to it, probably more than Montalbano Verano, I would say. This one is much more noticeably leaning on the aroma chemical side of things, but it's done in a very pleasant way. It has kind of a nice woody, peppery vibe to it, along with a whole bunch of citrus. So Montalbano Verano, gonna wrap this one up, and this one is better for spring and summertime, not as much of a fall and winter time blue scent. I know a lot of people would think that blue scents don't work as well during cool weather seasons, but actually a lot of these smell very good in the cold. So there we go, guys. I apologize once again for the head cold. Assuming that you can hear that in my voice. If you can't, then just pretend I don't have one. I'm good. No problems. Thank you all for hanging with me here. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys later.